The rhythmic sound of polished heels striking the smooth tile echoed across the terminal floor of Roosevelt International Airport. No entourage flanked her. No cameras followed. No one paused to look yet. She carried the unmistakable air of significance. Carmen Alston, 53 years old and recently confirmed as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, walked with the unhurried confidence of a woman who had weathered decades in silence and survived by knowing precisely when to speak. It was 9:38 p.m. on a humid summer night in the capital. The air inside the terminal tried its best to keep the heat at bay, but even climate control couldn't fully erase the clinging stickiness that came with the season. Carmen had just landed from Seattle, a red-eye that offered no rest, only briefings, security updates, and a bitter cup of coffee. All she wanted was her driver, a long shower, and maybe 3 uninterrupted hours of sleep before another day of briefings and decisions that reshaped national policy. She wore a sharply pressed slate gray suit, not for fashion, but for presence. Her shoulder-length hair was swept back in a low, neat twist. In her left hand, she carried a worn leather briefcase that never left her side. Inside were clearance documents so classified that even some senators didn't know they existed. As she moved past Gate 37, Carmen's eyes flicked across the terminal with trained precision. She noticed them before they even made a move. 2 airport security officers, both white males, late 30s, loitering by a service kiosk, exchanging hushed words. One nudged the other. A tilt of the head. A subtle glance in her direction. It was nothing obvious, but Carmen had seen this pattern before. Dozens of times. She didn't slow down, didn't acknowledge them, but the sound of boots quickening behind her told her everything she needed to know. "Excuse me, ma'am," one of them called out. Carmen stopped, turned with poise. "Yes. Are you traveling alone tonight?" "I am. Can we ask where you're headed?" "Is there a problem?" she asked, voice even, neither defensive nor yielding. "You match a description," the shorter one said. Middle-aged black woman, gray suit, briefcase, possibly carrying sensitive materials. "We need to check it out." Carmen blinked once. "So, I matched the description of a federal official returning home from work." "Ma'am," the taller one said, stepping in just a bit closer, "we're going to need to take a look at that briefcase." She gripped it tighter. "I don't think you understand. My name is Carmen Alston. I am a director of the FBI." There was a beat of silence, then a smirk. "Yeah? Got any ID to back that up?" She reached into the inside pocket of her blazer, pulled out her official credentials, and held them out without another word. He didn't take it, just looked at his partner and chuckled. "You can't just flash some badge and expect us to believe you." A teenage girl with earbuds paused. A mother with a stroller stopped mid-step. A phone came up. "I'm not flashing anything," Carmen said, calm but stern. "I'm identifying myself. Per protocol." "Protocol isn't your call tonight," the second officer said. "We'll take you in for questioning. You can explain everything downtown." Carmen's lips pressed together, not in fear, in calculation. She looked at the growing crowd, the phones recording the quiet tension building. Call the Homeland Security liaison. Or, better yet, call your supervisor. Now, they didn't move. Instead, one reached for her briefcase. "Do not touch that," she warned, stepping back. "You have no authority to search this." "Hands where I can see them," the taller officer barked. He grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. The other unclipped handcuffs. The briefcase hit the ground with a hollow thud. Gasps. Phones came up. Still, the officers didn't glance at the gathering scene. They were locked in. Carmen didn't resist, but she didn't yield either. "You're making a mistake," she said. They weren't listening. The cuffs clicked shut around her wrists. She stood tall, breathing steady. "You have the right to remain silent," the taller one muttered, eyes shifting. "Do you even understand what you're doing?" she asked. "You are unlawfully detaining a high-ranking federal officer on U.S. soil." "Ma'am," the younger one is named Tag Red L. Carter replied, "We're just doing our job. Your behavior isn't helping." "My behavior?" she said. "I've complied. Identified myself. And yet you've chosen to ignore due process." More phones. More murmurs. TSA agents hovered uncertainly. A janitor paused nearby. "Get her ID," the older officer mumbled. Carter picked up her badge, stared, turned it over once, then again. "Mike," he whispered, this looks real." The older one, badge reading M. Reardon, snatched it. He looked at the photo. The federal seal. The clearance strip. "Where'd you get this?" he asked, voice no longer mocking. "It was issued to me," Carmen answered. "After 28 years in federal law enforcement. The same path that trained the people who trained you." A crackle broke over their radios. "Terminal B security DHS inbound. Code 542. Agent en route." Reardon froze. Carter blinked. "What's 542?" he asked. Reardon swallowed. "High priority personnel mishandling." Now Carmen didn't need to speak. She didn't need to prove anything else. Carter scrambled to unlock the cuffs, fumbling with the key, nearly dropping it. This was just protocol, ma'am." She rubbed her wrists. "Stop calling me ma'am, like it excuses what just happened." Reardon reached for the briefcase. She stepped back. "You don't touch classified materials without clearance." He froze, arms still extended. Then came another voice. "Excuse me, officers. What exactly is going on here?" A tall black man in his 60s stepped forward. Denim jacket, military posture, sharp eyes. "This woman is the director of the FBI," he said. "I saw her on national television last week testifying in front of the Judiciary Committee." Carter opened his mouth to speak, but the man held up a hand. "Don't. Just listen. Y'all manhandled her like she was a suspect. You think you're keeping us safe? She's got more clearance in that briefcase than either of you will see in your lifetime." Then came another figuria, Latina TSA supervisor, early 40s, Navy insignia pinned above her badge. "Director Alston," she said softly, "we had no prior notice of this." "I'm so sorry." "You don't need to apologize for their mistake," Carmen replied. The TSA agent turned to Reardon and Carter. "You detained a federal official without clearance or verification. This is going to be reported." Reardon tried to speak. She refused to comply. "No," Carmen said, her voice rising. "I complied. I identified myself. You refused to verify. That's on you." Two men in black suits pushed through the crowd next. DHS agents. One wore an earpiece. The other carried a tablet. "Director Alston," the lead agent said. "Are you injured?" "I'm fine," she said. "They aren't." "Stand down," the agent ordered Reardon and Carter. "Right now." The officers backed away, pale and sweating. "Get body cam footage," the agent said. "Security tapes. Internal Affairs will be waiting for them at end of shift." "This is crazy," Reardon whispered. "No," the elderly bystander said. "What's crazy is thinking you could treat her like just another black woman and no one would notice." Carmen picked up her briefcase, dusted it off, locked it. A pause. "I'd like to leave now." The DHS agents escorted her outside, past the onlookers, past the reporters gathering by the exit. No words, just silent reverence. Inside the SUV waiting for her, Special Agent Mia Cole sat quietly. "Are you hurt?" she asked, eyes catching the marks on Carmen's wrists. "No," Carmen said, "but I'm tired." They're already scrambling. Videos are everywhere. Internal Affairs is opening a file. The DOJ wants to be briefed. Carmen leaned back. "They'll learn. That's not my priority." Cole hesitated. "Ma'am, this is the third time in 4 months." "I keep receipts," Carmen said quietly. "This one just came with cameras." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. "Director Alston, this is Judge Elroy Kinsey. I just saw the footage. I wanted to tell you you handled it with more grace than most of us could. And my 13-year-old grandson said you're the first public official he's ever respected. Thought you might want to know." Carmen closed her eyes. For the first time all evening, she allowed herself a breath. "Thank you, Your Honor. That does matter." Back at the airport, chaos continued. DHS cordoned off the area. Reporters were blocked from entering. Reardon and Carter sat in separate security offices, their careers already unraveling. A federal investigator entered. "You are suspended effective immediately," he said. "Badges and weapons are to be surrendered." You are not to speak to the press or contact Director Alston. This will not be brushed aside. This isn't fair, Carter muttered. But it's just, the investigator replied. And that's what counts. The next morning, Carmen stood at the FBI press podium. No teleprompter. No notes. You've seen the footage, she began. I was detained, handcuffed, and dismissed. Not because I was unclear, but because I didn't fit the image of authority they carried in their minds. Her voice was steady. This isn't about revenge. It's about reform. It's about why, in 2025, we still fail to recognize leadership in faces we weren't taught to respect. She paused. I don't want apologies. I want change. When asked if she'd press charges, she said no. I want them educated, not ruined. Later that week, she met the officers behind closed doors. No media, just her. She laid out photographs of her at Quantico, her first case, her father's civil rights lawyer, who believed systems could be reformed. You told him he was wrong, she said. They didn't speak. Maybe they couldn't. You made a decision based on bias. And if you wear a badge, that's not acceptable. You don't get to be average. You have to be better. And then she left. By noon, headlines surged. But Carmen returned to her work. Behind her desk, late into the night, she opened her drawer and pulled out a letter from her father written when she was promoted. They'll question how you got there, he wrote. Make them question how they ever thought you couldn't. At 11:18 p.m., she stood, turned out the light, and walked down the empty hallway. Shoulders squared, head high, director of the FBI, and no one could take that from her now.